as a DMC in sustainable tourism. So sustainability is no longer an optional. It's becoming a requirement. And this is where DMC play a very strong role because as a DMC, we design a full journey to influence the guest, who we work with, what we offer, and how tourism is delivered. So if DMC lead responsible, the entire destination benefits. The government, the community, and the people, even the visitor, because once we make them happy through the experience, they will see how productive their trip is. And at the end, I can say sustainable tourism is not just protecting the environment. It's about creating a long-term value for people, community, and the destination. And as a DMC, we have responsible to lead the change. It's for us to make our destination sustainable. From my company, our goal is simple: to make sure every journey leaves Zanzibar better than it found. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Biubwa Omar, for giving us insights on what Safari Gateway Limited as a destination management company, starting us off on what you do and what to ensure that you promote sustainable destination in Zanzibar. Thank you for giving us insights on the tourism development in Zanzibar, the growth since COVID, the numbers, the revenues, the key pillars. You have also talked to us about the changing traveler needs, the challenges that the destination faces. And as I wait for, there were pre-questions that had been asked. They're being posted on the chat. You will look at them and see how you can respond to them. But I'm also inviting questions for those of you who are here and have listened. One of the things that is very obvious for me, reminded again this morning, and it's very obvious that we often forget the significant role of DMCs in shaping the image, the identity, and the narrative of the place. Because you said it very well, that the DMC is the local partner that actually is the bridge that manages the experience, manages the travel experience. It's been packaged, it's been sold, but somebody has to manage it in terms of its logistics and everything. And so the DMCs cannot be left behind in the sustainability conversations. And it's also becoming very obvious and open from your conversation that marketers of destinations need to work very closely with the DMCs because they know better. I'm going to say something that might sound controversial, but allow me to say it. Many times when marketing organizations are rethinking their marketing strategies for destinations, they go everywhere else to look for international marketing experts, and they forget the people. Like Biubwa, you say, they forget the people, a local partner who knows the place, who knows the issues, who knows the challenges, who knows what is working and what is not working, who knows what the guests, travelers are asking for and what they are consuming. So that gap in between sometimes ends up creating a kind of a disconnect between destination reality and the marketing communication. So the information that is contained in marketing and promoted through marketing, sometimes it's disconnected from the actual stories of place because there is not that linkage. And it's not just with marketing. I think the disconnect also sometimes happens when we talk about sustainability. And we forget that the significance of DMCs in changing. They actually, for me today, I can say that I admit that the DMCs should be the change agents in terms of reaching out and spreading the sustainability message to travelers. Because you link up with travelers, you the ones who create the experience for them. But most of the time, you have sustainability conversations, and there's always this question and this gap. So, how do we reach out to travelers? How do we engage the travelers? And from what you have said this morning, they have to just look at what you are doing and your values as an organization. You talked about matters that might not be relevant to other destinations, maybe in the developed world, but you said there's no sustainability without ethics. I agree with you 100%. You say that in your view, a DMC should be a local partner, one who knows the place, who lives with the place and interacts with the place. You say that respect for cultures and respect for people of place is very important, and that this is a role that a DMC should take very seriously, because we can develop very good guidelines as a destination, and we can pin up those guidelines everywhere we want to pin them up. But if they are not embraced by those who are actually providing the experience and they do not practice them every day, if your guides don't tell guests, don't take pictures of children, if your guides don't tell your guests the things that you've said, like modest dressing, like don't turn poverty into an experience, right? Poverty
Yeah.
is not
Yeah.
an experience. So
Mm.
all of this kind of principles or best practices, if they're not embraced by the DMCs, who are the ones in daily contact and interaction with the visitors, they just remain good documents on paper. And therefore, I believe from this conversation for the DMCs that I hear, that you know that there is an active role for DMCs in transforming the identity of a destination and in putting sustainability into practice. They are at the forefront. The rest of the agencies, the government can do the policies, the other actors, ecosystem actors, even like STTA, can do the training and can do the advocacy. But the ones who really would need to put it into practice when it comes to visitors and changing visitor perspectives are actually the destination management companies. And I think this message needs to be more stronger than it has been until now. It has not been so strong that there is a critical role for DMCs. I don't know whether you want to add anything, Biubwa, before we go into some questions.
Yeah, I can see maybe from our experience in Zanzibar, sometime as a local partner, we we do our best or we practice everything. But if there is no enforcement of the regulation, there are in our country
Mm-hmm.
that the role of the DMC is for local partner. But if there is enforcement, so the investor, once they come here, you see, they invest in hotel or something else, but they see there's opportunity for to be a DMC here. So they jump onto it. And the local partners, they are losing their opportunity, they are losing their job as well. So they must be their enforcement. Without enforcement, a local partner cannot survive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that bit of yeah. So in addition to just best practices, even policies without enforcement, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
creates a loophole that can be exploited, and that at the end of the day, that exploitation ends up in exclusion for the local people and the local DMC, and the opportunities that they have then are limited because of lack of enforcement. And as we say that, I want to say that I think a lot of people and businesses are aware of what sustainability is. They are aware of what their responsibilities are. They are aware that there is demand for accountability. But if there is an opportunity for them not to do the right thing when no one is watching, then there are many who will still go back and do the things they used to do because of the voluntary nature sometimes of sustainability. Much of it is voluntary practices, some of it is not entrenched in law. And so when no one is looking, people fall back and do the things that they want, they're used to doing, or the things that they find easy to do. And only when an operator, like you said, partners, start asking you questions, or do you have any certification, or do you have any sustainability reports, do you have any accounts of what you've been doing, then they remember that this is now becoming valuable, and they go back and start doing the basics. As we are having this conversation, maybe I should just mention here, for the interest of, I can see there's so many students as well. We need to know that when we talk about sustainability, there are almost 4 levels where you can engage and be evaluated. Today we can evaluate you and say that you are basically being compliant, right? Yeah. You're being compliant, which means you are looking at what the law has said, and you do what the law has said, and that is it. So if you're a hotel or a lodge developer, you do your EIA, environmental impact assessment, and you go ahead and develop based on that, and then you claim that you are credible and you have actually respected the environment and you consulted the people. So that's the entry level to sustainability, where you do some social and environmental stuff, and you're compliant because the law requires you. Then there are those who are at very, very a basic level. The ones who are at a basic level do a lot of stuff that do not demand accountability. They're the ones that you find in the place that we call green crowding. They just want to be part of the chorus. We also planted a tree on World Environment Day. We also give the children and all those kind of things. Those are the basic ones, the ones at the basic level. Then you've got your intermediate levels. And I'm saying this that irrespective of which certification program you are aligned with, because there are hundreds of them in the world today, even within the tourism industry, we've got probably more than 180 different labels across the world. I think they have even surpassed that 180 today. I'm saying irrespective of where you are at and what you're subscribed to, for me, it's important for you to determine whether you are at compliant level, whether you are at basic level, whether you are at the next level, which is intermediate. You're doing a mix of some things that are in leadership and some things that are just normal. So you are at intermediate level. Whether you are at leadership, which means you have gone beyond your basics and compliance, and you are actually beginning to create footprints, positive footprints. And when you're creating footprints, you're at leadership level. And then from leadership level, you can then determine whether you have reached your stewardship. When you have reached stewardship level, then you're at a place when you're leaving legacy behind. There is great legacy that we can say that Safari Gateways. This is the legacy of Safari Gateway when we come to sustainability in Zanzibar. Now you are creating lasting. You know, you mentioned about lasting impact. That is stewardship. Lasting impact goes beyond your company, so that what you do influences your partners, influences policy, influences.
Hello?
It's important for those of us who are here to appreciate that even as we talk DMC leadership, how can DMC, the role that they play in destination sustainability, even amongst the DMCs and other operators, we must pay attention that there is a lot of there's different levels in which we operate and play as sustainable tourism operators. I just wanted to add that for our learning for today, that you can move from compliance to stewardship, and each one of them is determined by different kinds of actions and activities and the levels of accountability. Sometimes it's even determined by the level of investment that you're putting into sustainability, even as a DMC. What is it that is your direct into promoting sustainability? And when sometimes we say we need a little skin in the game, right? We should be able to measure what is it that you have put out there in terms of promoting sustainability in the destination. Having said that, I will now move to some of the questions. I don't know, Biubwa, whether you've looked at some of the questions and if there is any of them that has not been tackled that you can look at. What practical mechanisms exist to collaborate with local authorities and communities?
Yeah, I have
Is this the
looked
first
at.
one? Mm.
The first one is what practical mechanism exists for the DMC to collaborate with local authority and community to ensure destination-wide alignment with UN Tourism Sustainability Framework. As I mentioned before, maybe practical collaboration start with a structure, not as a slogan. The strongest mechanism are multi-stakeholder destination platform where local government, DMC, community representative, conservation actor, transport provider, guide, accommodation, business meet regularly, agree priority, they review data, and assign responsibility. UN tourism destination management guidance emphasizes coordinate government, while the GSTC destination criteria requires stakeholder engagement, resident inclusion, impact of monitoring, and destination-wide management, rather than isolated company action. This is where we can avoid a greenwashing, as I mentioned earlier. So when you have all this in a practice, this means DMC should have to establish or active join Destination Sustainable Committee or community consultation forum at a village or world level. I can say that. ADMC should not work beside the destination system. They should work inside it through joining planning, share data, community voice, and a clear accountability.
So those are the practical mechanisms to collaborate. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So there's another question that's talking about what does an agreement with a tour operator or a DMC look like?
Yeah, I can see the best DMC contract is no longer only about rates or releases. It's about responsibility, traceability, and share standard. Yeah.
So you must go beyond just it doesn't just include the rates. Yeah.
Yes,
It's
not just
also
a rate, and not just
value driven.
Yes, you can check maybe our health and safety standard issue and a lot from this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So it's beyond the rates. It's also knowing about the agreement should also be aligned in terms of the values of the organizations and what the operators are doing. Is doing less harm enough when ecosystems are already damaged?
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Maybe in damaged destination, sustainability cannot mean managing decline more politely. It must mean restoration. So no, where ecosystem is already agreed doing less harm is not enough. sustainable tourism must move from mitigation to regeneration. I can say that. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. I think I would say to add on to what you've said that doing less harm is not enough when ecosystems are already damaged. There should also be regeneration, right? So
Yeah.
it's not just
Yeah.
doing less harm. So if you were to ask me, doing less harm would be intermediate, regeneration would be leadership, right?
Yeah.
You remember
Yes.
the stages that I spoke about, from
Mhm.
compliance to basic to intermediate to leadership and
Intermediate and the
stewardship.
yeah.
So yeah, doing less harm is intermediate.
Yeah.
Regeneration activities and investments will go now into leadership. That's why we now need to talk more about forget about just talking about the labels and just talk about what they mean, what
Yeah,
exactly is
exactly.
happening. Yeah, that's what we need to start focusing on, because
Yeah.
everyone has a label now, but we have to go
Yes.
above
And
the
everyone
labels
is
and
misusing the label.
yes, and they have been misused. Now let's go above all the labels and say, okay, your label, whatever its name is, tell us what is it that you're doing in terms of sustainability leadership and stewardship. Where are you at beyond your label? That's what we are looking at today. So that was a good question to help us use this framework that I'm talking about that actually will bring together every type of sustainability or certification level to evaluate performance. As we move on with time, I want to look at this. What does sustainable tourism leadership look like in African context specifically, and how can African DMCs shape global standards? I think I would want you to do the second part of that question. Would be an interesting one. How can African DMCs shape global standards rather than just respond to them?
Yeah, maybe a short I can say Africa should not only localize the global framework. Africa should
Mm.
globalize its own life solution.
Mm-hmm. Not just
Yeah.
localizing global standards, but
Yes.
globalize our
Globalize
own
uh,
solutions,
life solution. Yes.
our own life solutions.
Yeah.
And what is the best way to do that? What
Yeah,
is
I
the
can
best
see
way? I agree
that
with you.
that means African DMC leadership should look like uh, protecting land and culture before the mass growth arrive, building local supply chain instead of import-heavy tourism, measuring community benefit, as we are talking every time, to make sure the community are the beneficiary from this tourism. Measuring community benefits instead of only rival. So make sure we set the number. Once we consider the number, we'll have many number. But what are the benefits?
Mhm.
Financial restoration, formalization for women in youth participation, and also speaking with the evidence in policy and space.
Mm.
Yeah, this is
Mm.
Africa DMC shaped the global standard when they document the African model of the stewardship, publishing case study, joint standard consultation, participant in those. We say we have more than 100, and you and Nini like a sustainability brand.
Mm.
Yeah, we have to
Mm.
push the world to a community equity,
Mm.
indigenous knowledge, informality, transition, and the resilience, not just a carbon matrix and hotel certification.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I don't know if there's anyone else with some comments on that. You can put them on the chat or you can put your hand up. I think this is a good question of how African DMCs shape global standards just rather than just respond to them. And Biubwa has given us some insights on that, how to do that. And I like the idea of us not just localizing global standards, but also making our life standards global. For the students that are here, I think that's a good question for research and insights on how do you exactly do it, dig into it in detail. I think for a long time, in Africa and in our sustainability circles, we have been speaking a lot about the world. Africa needs its alternative metrics for measuring tourism impact, which is some of what Biubwa has mentioned. And I think this fits very well into these questions. How do we shape global standards? One of them for me is that we must begin to push our alternative metrics. Africa must push its alternative metrics for measuring tourism. If we don't push alternative metrics for measuring tourism, the measurement of tourism will be pushed down our throats, and we will be forced to localize it, and we will be provided with tools. For students who are here, we need to develop tools that will measure these alternative metrics, and also come up with the really credible metrics that really speak the story of tourism in our communities and in our destinations and its impact on our ecosystems. Our homegrown metrics and our homegrown tools for measuring those impacts that we are looking at. Because if we don't, we will receive an international tool from an international agency that has an agenda to collect certain data, because that data promotes a certain narrative that is important at global level, but which does not make sense to us. So we plan with narratives that are not ours, and then we start wondering, what are these numbers and what do they mean for our people in our host communities? So good question, good discussion. Yes, and DMCs, like Biubwa has said, can play a role in that. I think that is closely related to the question of how can DMCs influence policy or collaborate with government. You had mentioned something about that. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, from which question?
At the bottom of that, it says, how can DMCs influence policy or collaborate with government to drive sustainable tourism agendas?
Okay. I think if I understand well, we need a government support. Yeah, like a multi-stakeholder council involving government, private sector, NGO, and community representative. If I understand this well, adoption of international standard, a regular carrying capacity study, like Zanzibar has explored many. We have this, as I mentioned, that a greener Zanzibar and other, and a clear zoning plan and enforcement of environmental impact assessment. Also, transparent monitoring and reporting mechanisms such as annual sustainability dashboard. Oh, did I answer it well, or I didn't understand the question?
I think you have answered aspects of it, of the how, what is it that can be done in order to influence policy. And you are very right that policy needs data, right? So systems for collecting data, credible data that can be used in policy. Because if we don't have credible data, we know junk in, junk out, right? What we put in is what we get out. So if the policy is informed by data that is not credible, then it will fail before it even starts operating. And some of it will even be shelved, and we will be looking for them after they are launched, and we can't find them. I'm saying that because my colleagues and I were looking for a document that was launched publicly in the March of this year, a policy document. And when we went to look for it, we couldn't find it. And we were like, was there just a hurry to have a ceremony? And the document is still in draft form because you can't find the final copy and all those kind of things. This is some of the things that we're talking about here, because if those who are doing policy are not also very honest with how they do the policy, then we have a challenge.
And also the policy need, I can add, the policy need inclusion. So from the community association and the government, because the policy influence begin when DMC stop presenting themselves only as a seller of a trip and start acting as a manager of destination value.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I want to open, there are many other questions here, but I feel like some of these other questions, we will take them down and we will probably have specific webinars on them, on the technology like AI and how can technology be used by DMCs without losing authenticity. I think that's in the tourist experience. I think that should be a whole webinar by itself. The other question on what will sustainable tourism in Africa look like in the next 10 to 20 years? Come to Sustainable Tourism Africa Summit. I will be giving an overview of that. And I'll not talk about how DMCs should prepare, but this is another question that I think we can discuss in our webinar. How can DMCs and everyone prepare for what sustainable tourism will look like in the next 10 years. I just mentioned STAS.
And
STAS
this is, I think
Sustainable
there's
Tourism Africa Summit.
maybe we can answer this the last one from the end, maybe from Mercy is asked, I have question considering the pressure from clients for cheaper option. How realistic is it for DMC to fully commit to sustainability without losing competitive, where we draw the line between the business survived and ethical responsibility? And here is, we see many DMC, they fail from here. They compete with the price or they go when you go direct with the cheaper things. This is how you make a destination. Because sustainability is not a luxury to add on it. It's a business strategy. The question is not whether we can afford to be sustainable, but whether we can afford not to be. DMC doesn't need to choose between competitive or responsibility. We need to redesign competitiveness itself. The line is drawn where cost cutting starts to damage people, culture, or ecosystem. Below that line, we should not go. The goal is not to be the cheapest, it's to be the most trusted, most consistent, and the most valuable. This is how I want to say. Many serious agents and travelers are willing to pay more for this, especially in today's market where trusts are critical. Because it depends on reliability, safety, transparency, authentic experience, consistency, quality. There's more to be done. It's not too competitive or to go cheaper. When you go cheaper, at the end of you won't benefit, even the community won't benefit. Even the tax, you might end up cutting the tax as well. So DMC should never compromise on a safety standard, legal compliance, a fair wage and treatment of staff, community respect and consent, and environmental protection is a very sensitive area. If we lower the price, means using unlicensed supplier, underpaying guide, overcrowding fragile sites, ignoring local community. This is many of the clients end up with beach boy, end up with the hotel desk, and doing informal activity. And there's a lot of example for C. You see, maybe the DMC is receiving a full charter for 400 people, but they end up sometimes selling activity only for 50 from 400. But you don't need to compete going cheaper. You need to stay with your standards. Because you are the one shaping the destination.
Wow, I think, Marcy, thank you for that question, Marcy. I think very good question, and Biubwa has done good justice to that question. I like your line where you say where cost cutting starts hurting the local economy, the people, the environment, the ecosystem. That's where you draw the line, right? You cannot cut costs at the expense of the quality of experience of your guests and also the impact that you have on the local and the host community and the environment. And then you also say the goal is not to be cheaper. The goal of the DMC is to be the most trusted, most consistent, and offering value. I think great lessons. They are great statements, Biubwa. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I almost think like we should close it at that, because when we say more than that, we might lose some of the valuable lessons that we have that we have that we have learned today from this very interesting discussion on the role of DMCs. Do I have anybody? Now is the time where we allow you to raise your hand. If you really believe or feel like there is something that you really wanted to be said and has not been said, and you would like to ask your last question. But I think that was a good closing lines there from Biubwa. Anyone want to raise your hand so that we see you? Anyone? Anyone? Okay. All right. I don't see any hands up. Because I don't see any hands up, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Biubwa, for all the amazing work that you're doing. I'm extremely impressed by the effort that you have put. I'm also very appreciative of the deep. I always knew that you had the deep knowledge of sustainable development of tourism and the role of DMCs, but today you have blown away our minds by the level of understanding of this topic, and how you have brought up the arguments, and even the strong conviction. You know, when somebody is convicted about what they're saying, and somebody who is saying it because they have learned it, is two different things. And we can feel the conviction and the passion for it. And we just want to congratulate you and tell you to continue being a light, showing the way, and showing leadership. One of these days, you and I will sit down to evaluate where we are at. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I believe we are close to leadership in the destination as a
Thank you.
DMC when it comes to sustainable development of tourism. I now hand over to my
Yeah.
colleague Tess. Thank you so much, Biubwa. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
Biubwa, if
And
anybody wants to reach out to you via email,
I
if you don't
can
mind,
say,
you
I will
can
write
share
my
your
email
email.
and my number. Yeah. Thank you very
Yeah, you can
much,
write your email
Judy,
on the chat. Yeah. Mm.
for this opportunity. It has been very meaningful discussion for me today. And thanks,
Mm.
for making my transit my transit here more meaningful as well. I can
Yeah.
just say, as a DMC from Zanzibar, I believe sustainability starts with respect from our people, our culture, and our environment. We have responsibility
Mm.
not only to promote our destination, but to protect them and prepare for the future as well. I'm now sharing my contacts through the chat.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
my email address is
Mm. As she's sharing, we are going to have a group photo.
yeah,
Uh, we're going to have a group photo just now, right? As Biubwa is sharing contacts, because we also believe this webinars provides opportunities for networking. Maybe there's a company from Kenya that wants to connect with a responsible company in Zanzibar. Here is your chance. Now you know that Safari Gateway is a responsible company based out of Zanzibar that you can actually cooperate with. If you're a responsible tourism company, also operate our DMC from Kenya, so that you know
thank
they
you.
exist. So
Thank
thank
you
you
very
very much,
much, and I
everyone,
hope
for
to meet
coming.
you all in Sustainable Forum.
Henzo is going to help us to take a group photo just now. And Tess has just posted the link to
If
the
anybody
Sustainable
can,
Tourism Africa Summit. Yes,
yeah,
Biubwa.
yeah, thank you. Maybe if they can just put the video on, we can have a nice photo.
Yes, thank you for asking them. Yeah. Vivian, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Awesome.
Good to see you
Oh,
too.
so good to see you here, Vivian. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
thank
Dr.
you.
Stella Asante, good to see you here. Yeah. Thank you for coming. I appreciate your presence. Appreciate very much. I see many students from the Young Changemakers program, your lecturers. Thank you for mobilizing the students to come. We
Yeah.
appreciate all of you for being here today, and I hope, yes, the recording will be shared. And if you know any communities, let me make this announcement. I have one important announcement to make concerning Sustainable Tourism Africa Summit. If you're
Okay.
a company and you're looking to sponsor a community, there is a special rate for communities to participate at STARS. We have already from our company, we have already provided 4 scholarships for communities around Lake Naivasha to participate at STARS. But we're looking for others to sponsor communities so that we have a good representation of about 15 of them. It takes at cost, it takes just 5,000 shillings to sponsor a community for a delegate ticket. That does not include the logistics. So if you're a company here and you want to add on to your sustainability investments, you can invest in STARS by sponsoring a member of a community to join us at STARS 2026, which will be in Naivasha, Kenya. We are
Thank you.
happy to extend this good rate to students as well. We are happy to extend this rate to students as well, so that you can participate at STARS. It's actually the cost that is payable to the hotel for your participation. So we're happy to extend that as well at 5,000 per day for communities and students as well. Thank you very much. I think Henzo has done their group photo. Henzo? Yes, we have had our group photo. You have interacted on the chat. I hope you have exchanged contacts. You have met somebody today with whom you can have a business, not just business, whether you're a student and you're looking for internship. This is the place where sometimes you say, I'm a student and I'm looking for internship. You never know who is in
Yeah,
this
exactly.
particular forum. So it's a good networking space for us today. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of the week, and I'll see you at STARS. If not, I see you at the next webinar. We appreciate your engagement always. Thank you, and bye for now. Thank you, my co-host. It's been
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah, and we're all having the women's conference. All the women I have hosted here, we're having a conference very soon. I'm excited about it. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah.